A large amount of dust and noise is produced through operations on the site and through movement of the vehicles along the haulage routes. CETA attempt to minimise the dust levels through spraying water across the site and the roads which surround it. Vegetated cover is used on the completed cells of the landfill in order to minimise wind-generated dust, while dust monitors around the boundary of the site measure the dust levels. Control and monitoring of the environmental impacts has come a long way since the landfill site opened 30 years ago. However, it is clear the site has a detrimental impact on the environment and those living in the surrounding area. What else can be done to lessen the impact? I interviewed Patricia Lewis to find out just how the landfill still impacts her life.
We knew about United Downs when we moved into the house 9 years ago, but at the time the extension was under review and we were hoping that it would close down. However, it doesn't have a major impact on our lives. We do hear it sometimes, and occasionally if the wind's in the wrong direction we can smell it, which I think is the worst thing about it. I have to say the roads roundabouts are quite small and fairly narrow, and I don't think they were ever intended for the big refuse trucks or the amount of traffic that comes to the dump at weekends, because we get a lot of people recycling garden rubbish. The dump was very useful when we initially moved here, before they had the pickup recycling for garden rubbish, because we used to take a lot of things up there. But for the most part it's not very nice to have on your doorstep. I think that the worst parts are the smell, the noise, particularly in the evenings from the birds. Sometimes they can be very noisy, presumably when they're digging over the site. I know CETA have tried to improve it and they've made footpaths and things around the dump, but it's not exactly the most pleasant place to walk because you can smell it, and sometimes it can be quite nauseating at that close.
It was clear from spending some time up at the site and observing the trucks in operation that much of the waste tipped into the site could be recycled. Large quantities of paper and cardboard were clearly visible. Should there be screening of the waste prior to dumping in landfill, and is it commercially viable? Approximately 120 trucks visit the landfill each day, each depositing 10 tons of waste. CETA operates the recycling and waste facility, which is open to the public 7 days a week at the landfill. Unfortunately, this impacts on the local community because of fly tipping which occurs.
Yes, that is annoying.
Fly tipping?
Yeah, we get, I've got fields. I know we only got about 30 acres now, but I've got field gateways and that's often found stuff dumped there. If they go to the tip and find the gates are closed, they'll come and tip it in our gateways and things like that. I've run the council then, and generally speaking they have cleared it within a week or so anyway, but we definitely do get that, yes. I mean, in the river down the bottom there one day was a radiogram with records still on it and all dumped in the river.
Unbelievable, really.
Yeah, and mattresses and goodness knows what, you know. That is one of the worst things of the lot, actually.
Yeah.
And of course that's one of the big worries about what's going to happen in the future, really, because if some of them haven't got anywhere to put, they will fly tip into some places and it'll be a menace. That's probably one of the biggest worries you've got, really.
Fly tipping has severe impacts on the environment and the people who live near the landfill. While not a direct impact from operations on site, is there more which can be done in order to prevent it from happening? Historically, landfill has been a convenient way of disposing of waste. However, it has become apparent there are a number of environmental impacts. CETA has gone a long way in controlling many of these impacts. However, a landfill site still has impacts on the environment and the local population, and it raises many environmental management questions. Could more be done to control the odour from the site? Is there no way to prevent the birds from scavenging in the evenings when the site is closed? What can be done to screen and sort the recyclable material to prevent this going into landfill? Fly tipping needs to be discouraged. How? Traffic causes problems because of the increased number and size of the vehicles. This probably cannot be resolved until closure of the landfill. The landfill site is an unattractive blot on the landscape. While this is likely to continue until the site's closure, what then can be done?